and welcome back to another episode of The Unprofessional Entrepreneur. This week we are talking about what is your most repurposable content. What content should you be pulling to start repurposing your content? Whether it is giving it to a team, whether it is giving it to your VA, whether it is doing it yourself, I want you to have a clear understanding of which content you want to start with when it comes to what you're going to repurpose next. And if you haven't already, I strongly recommend that you go and sign up for the private podcast, Turn 1 into 10. This is going to show you how to DIY your content repurposing, whether it's yourself or giving it to a team member. But the first day of Sepia is content. I go over the same training as this with a little bit less detail, but then we continue on the Sepia framework where I go into the platform's intentions and angles and how those all play a role in your repurposing. So if you are someone who wants to start repurposing and don't know what content to choose, or you want to start giving it to your team member, or you want to outsource, or you just want to take a break from creating content and you're wondering, like, where do I even start to make good content from old content, I have two places for you to look. The first is your data, and the second is your framework. Frameworks, plural. When it comes to your data, this is where a lot of people start, especially if you don't have the content that I'm going to explain in the second one. And the data speaks so highly and so clearly of how people resonated with your content. Because when it comes to repurposing, a big focus is to be repeating the things that your audience needs to hear the most, to be able to get ready to buy, to be able to take the next action, whatever that is, right? And so when it comes to the data, anything that is saved, anything that has been shared a lot, and anything that has comments and has has sparked conversation, the comments being like, oh my God, you just get me. This is speaking directly to me. How did you get inside my brain? Right? Like those kind of comments really show that something you did, something you said, something about that original post hit your audience where you want to hit them again and again. So those are the easiest pieces of content to find, I would say. Of course, it depends on what platforms you're digging through. If you're looking through a podcast, going for the most listens. If you're looking through Instagram, you're looking through the save, the shares, the comments. If you're on Threads, same thing. If you're looking at your email list, it could be looking at the click rates, right? All of the platforms have their own way to check the analytics. And I strongly recommend starting with data if you are especially newer to content repurposing and haven't been doing it for a while or haven't actually looked through your content before. The second content that I recommend you look for, and this is something that not everyone will have, because honestly, it took me almost 4 years to come up with a framework for my done for you services. I was following a process. I had systems. I understood. I had expertise, right? But the actual like naming and branding of a framework isn't something that comes to you from the beginning of your business. Like, especially you can create a framework, but it doesn't mean it'll stick, right? Like the framework that you carry on and stick to and then end up following religiously with all your clients, I think that's something that takes time and takes market research and takes testing. So it's okay if you do not have a framework, a method, a process, a system that you take your clients through. Stick to the data. If you are someone who has a framework in place, the content that you have that breaks down your framework, talks about testimonial transformation going through the framework, talks about the different parts of the framework, right? So we'll use Sepia for an example. Sepia is the framework for the remix. It is content, platforms, intention, and angles. I can make content on the C, the P, the I, or the A. I can make content on the full process. I can make content with testimonials from different sections of the framework. I can make content, like that framework can be ripped apart and then talked about 100 different ways. And in your content, it's really important to do that because it shows your thought leadership. It shows that you're an expert. It shows that you know what you're talking about, that you have a system that will help the people who come to you at point A get to point B, because you know the path they need to take to get there, right? So when it comes to the remix, people can bring me anything, any single piece of content. They tell me what platforms they want to show up on, and they tell me what intentions they have for those platforms, what actions they want their ideal clients to take. And I will go in and I will apply my 8 angles and I will create 100 pieces of content in like 3 hours because I know exactly what I need. I have the steps, CPIA, to get from point A, old content, to point B, 100 custom content ideas, right? And so any framework pieces of content, any content that talks about your processes, especially any testimonials, any case studies that you have, if you don't have those, create content with those and then repurpose it again and again and again, right? So those are the 2 places that I say to start if you're looking for what content is the best for you to start with repurposing. And I don't want you to overthink this because it doesn't need to be complicated. It can be as simple and easy as you want it to be. It can be as straightforward as you want it to be, because any piece of content can be turned into any piece of content. If you're looking through your Instagram posts from 6 months ago, you can still turn them into new Instagram posts. You can turn them into podcast outlines. You can turn it into a blog post, right? Like my original blog posts were all Instagram posts that I expanded on. A lot of, and same for like my original TikToks. I turned them into either podcast outlines or into blog posts that I then expanded on, right? So if you're sitting there like, well, I've created all these videos on TikTok, but I want to start a blog, or I want to start a podcast, or I want to be better with carousels on Instagram, right? Like it doesn't matter what the original content is or what the content you want to create from it is. If you follow the CPIA framework, you can turn any piece of content into any piece of content. So I would just get clear on what you're going to be selling for the next 90 days, what you want to focus on, and go to the place where you have the content that has talked about that in the past, right? So if you're relaunching something, go back through your launch emails, go back through your Instagram posts at that period of time. If you are someone who sells something on Evergreen, just scroll back 3 months, 6 months, a year, right? Because all of your content will still be talking about the same thing. And maybe you need to adjust your messaging to where your business is now, but the old ideas are still just as relevant. I'm going to let this end here, keep it short and sweet. Again, if you want to continue DIYing your content repurpose, I strongly recommend you sign up for the private podcast. In the show notes, the Turn 1 into 10 lead magnet. If you do not want to DIY it, if you want someone to help you with the content ideas and dig through for those gems, you are more than welcome to sign up for the remix. That will also be linked in the show notes. And of course, if you want to hand it all off to my team, we do done for you repurposing. You can check out Repurposing Unlimited, our done for you package, or you can send me a message and we can talk about a custom quote depending on what you're looking for your business. The first thing I'm going to ask you if you're talking to me about done for you is what kind of content do you want? Because if you love creating your podcast, if you love writing your blog posts, I'm not going to say give that to my team. You're going to give us what you don't want to create anymore. We've actually just finished, at the time of this recording, 2 B-roll projects where we did a bulk creation of short form videos using B-roll content for our clients, where we made the short form videos and wrote captions to go along with it that were repurposed from old content. So the sky's the limit when it comes to repurposing and when it comes to hiring my team. Whatever it is that you have in mind, my DMs are open. We can get on a call or we can just voice note back and forth. That is up to you. But I'm going to love you and leave you all there. Everything that you could need, could want, will be linked in the show notes. And I will catch you all next week on another episode of The Unprofessional Entrepreneur. And as always, don't forget to stay unprofessional.